We are recording.
All right, everyone. Hey,
We just want to say hello like 100 times. Hello.
this time we really mean it. Anyway, welcome to our Wednesday Facebook Live. I'm here today with Rinny and Stacy. Give a good wave there. Doesn't matter what it looks like in the back, Rinny is not in a circus tent. She's just a very, very colorful background, which is great to see. And our guest today, Bryan Piccirillo, which I always considered a win when I get his name close to right. Took a while. Bryan, it's great to have you back with us.
Oh, thanks for having me back. I don't know if I was good the last time or if this is some kind of punishment of some sort.
We just said we'd keep doing it till we get it right.
We hope that you will, enjoy our company today.
So Bryan is a member of our Commonwealth group, one of our founding members, and a great asset to that. Someone whose face I enjoy seeing every week that he can make it. He is a financial planner with Edward Jones and has a great story to tell because I think he's got like the classic entrepreneur story of someone who was working in, I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but basically had a great corporate job, was unhappy and decided to make the transition to something he really loved. And I'll have him tell more about that. And specifically today, what we're going to be talking about is prospecting, basically. There's one word for it. It's finding clients, finding customers, expanding your reach, especially as a solopreneur, which that could be something and you're in the professional service field or you have a company that is just you, but whatever you're looking at, we all want more clients, customers, people in our world. And Bryan has been able to leverage both his sparkling personality and his heart, and both will be three here. He's been able to leverage his sparkling personality, his heart, and also best business practices to grow a really successful practice. And that's what he's going to share with us today. So Bryan, welcome again.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Several times. So first of all, tell us how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so we'll start. I grew up in a small blue collar community initially. We've talked about that many times, but my parents worked just really long hours, tried to provide everything they could for my brother and I. And I just saw the impact my mother had on our community as a nurse and caregiver in that world. She put others first in her life, and I really just wanted to follow in those footsteps of just really making a difference in people's lives too. So I actually went to pharmacy school with the vision of just changing people's lives to the way that they handle health, much like my mother does in the nursing side of things. So I really was focused on better health and just managing people's medications and getting them better that way. Quickly realized though after graduation and I kind of got into that corporate world of things, I was really beholden to the visions of those that I worked for. So whatever the employer's 5-year, 10-year plans were, I had to assimilate to whatever that plan was. And I knew deep down there was just something more. It just didn't feel quite right of my vision of what I wanted to do in life versus kind of what they were going. Now, not to say they weren't helping people, but they had different priorities that I didn't think were my priorities. So I just really needed to be my own boss in that situation, follow my own vision. And ultimately my goal was always change the world in some way, whatever that looked like. I didn't know, but I knew I wanted to make a difference long after I wasn't here. So it really took me like a year of soul searching. I was at Duke University Hospital. I was running their OR division of pharmacy, just working my way up the corporate ladder there. And I honestly just woke up one day and said, this isn't right for me. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to figure out where I fit in. So then it just became a process of, okay, what do I love doing and how do I want to help people? So I really married my understanding of health, passion for educating people and caring for individuals. And then with my skills as far as in knowledge of finance and how I work there, found the company I'm with at now, got into their vision statement of what they were looking for. So, Edward Jones is obviously a big company, but they work as you own your own office. So think of it kind of like a franchising type aspect. So I get to run my own business with all the resources that they have. And they really want you to focus on people, small businesses in the community versus, major corporations. And that is exactly what I wanted to do. So now, it just became people say, oh, you're a financial advisor. I don't look at myself as a financial advisor. I look at myself as a life improver. Money to me is a means to some sort of ends. It's really just a brick in an equation of whatever people want to achieve, which might have to do with health and, community and all of that. It just all kind of fit together for me. So that's kind of the guess, short version of my story.
It's all true.
It is true. Yes, that is definitely all true.
And it's beautiful.
It'd be a great story if it wasn't, but it is. So a lot of why you're successful is because you love what you do.
Mhm.
And that shows through. So I want to go back and just before we get into, some of the more details in terms of building your client base, I want to touch upon the passion that you were able to tap into, which I think is contagious and attracts clients. So how did you know when you said you woke up one day and you just knew you didn't want to do this anymore? One of the topics we had recently, I don't know if it was a Commonwealth or whatever, is how do you know when you're just quitting and how do you know when you're actually transitioning to something higher? How did you know that this was a vertical move and not a downgrade or a lateral move when you decided not to do this?
And I was, top of my game at what I did before. So it wasn't an issue of like, oh, I'm not performing. I was definitely, continually moving up the ladder in the corporate world. My aha moment was two things actually. One is I would spend a couple years at a hospital and I would get burnout from it and go to another hospital thinking there was something better awaiting me at Duke or wherever I was at the time. And I found that no matter where I went, I was still frustrated and annoyed, and there was just there was that piece missing somewhere. The other thing is I realized when I was going into work, I was figuring out when I got to go home for the day.
Hmm.
And I think that was my final straw of like, you know what, if I really enjoyed what I was doing, I wouldn't be trying to figure out how can I kill the day until 4:30. Or, when is this day going to be over, and kind of dreading getting in and dragging my feet as I got ready in the morning versus being like, I love what I do. Call me on a Saturday evening. I'm there for you kind of thing. So those are kind of my two moments of self-realization of I just wasn't happy and there was something missing. And I kind of had to figure out what that was. Now that was a ever evolving thing of, okay, what do I enjoy doing? Helping people and kind of putting all those different pieces together of what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? Do I want to be my own boss? Yes, that was probably my biggest annoyance. If I'm a personality, if you don't know me, probably double A at times, that if I think something is a good idea or is going to work, I want to do it. There isn't let's go talk to 17 different committees and go through it. This is better for whatever we're doing, let's do it. So working in worlds where, again, like I said, I'm beholden to a corporate structure, it just became really frustrating, and it felt like it limited my abilities in a way because I couldn't go to where I wanted to go.
So when you decided to make the move, were you intimidated by the fact that you were going to be starting a service business that you were going to have to basically populate all by yourself?
Oh yes, I was scared to death. It was scary, but it was planned for. So I mapped out everything. So I actually took my personal life and said, what does this look like for my personal life? And so those around me that I loved and cared about, I had to tell them, hey, I might be working long days or on the weekends or whatever that looks like. So understand, and I may have some days where I'm up and down. So getting my family and my personal life ready was probably more important than the professional side of it. I made sure my budget was good. So I made sure I got rid of every miscellaneous bill I could. So it was, being in finance, paying off credit cards and not having any debt, things like that. So I knew if I had a struggle, I never had that urge to be like, well, I got to really pay this mortgage. So I'm going to go back to this steady, stable position. I could, eke out this, work through the storm because I minimize my expenses on my end as well. So that's kind of how, but yeah, I went from being, again, top of my game, being recruited by multiple hospitals to you're a new person in this profession, and versus people that have been doing it for 30, 40 years. And it's pretty cutthroat in a lot of industries because we're all talking to the same people and trying to, get them to work with us and trust us. So, and I'm a very introverted person. Honestly, if you don't know me, I don't really enjoy talking to people. Sometimes I could binge watch Netflix all weekend if you let me. But, so there was definitely coming out of a comfort zone of how do I talk with people and truly connect with them and not in this, leadership
Mhm.
subordinate role. It's more of a equality role of how do we work together versus how do I just tell you what to do.
So if someone is considering this kind of move, they've got to that point and they don't want to do it blindly, what, based upon the planning that you did, what general advice would you give people in terms of being able to prepare themselves as best they can to start to make this move?
Prepare for long hours. There's no business that I know that got started that you were just a millionaire working 3 days a week overnight. You know, I think a lot of people get stuck in that trap of they see the success stories, but they don't get into the work that it took to get there.
Mhm.
Be prepared for that, and you have to have a support system around you that is willing to get you through that. There are times where I was literally in tears on the phone, and I look back to of like I had a month where I made like $3 in my like second or third month, and I'm like, wow, you know, I can't live off of this. Um, you know, and there was times where I was beating myself up, but I was surrounded by people like, don't worry, you got this. There's, so without that, who knows if I would have been there. And I'm a big planner. I know some people would like to just, say jump into it if it's your passion. I fully agree with that, but I also think you do need to plan to say, I have to support my world because I know it's going to take time for this to happen. Um,
So that's great. So if I just to sum, one is you just prepared yourself mentally for the fact it was going to be hard. It was going to be a grind. You prepared those around you for that as well. And then you actually just physically got your life to a point, or financially got your life to a point where you could build it up. You actually did that kind of preparation as well.
and it wasn't getting my life to a point of where I have no bills or anything like
Right.
that. It was a point where I felt comfortable with saying, if the worst happened, do I get through this and do I survive this? You know, because that's typically what happens with a business owner. Any business owner is that you get to a point where you have to give up, not because you don't love doing it anymore. It's because you have to feed yourself or feed your family. And if you can get through that obstacle on the front end, then you get to enjoy it for the rest of your life.
Okay. So we've got you prepared, because basically I'm trying to map this journey for others. We're trying to map this journey for others who are similar parallel processes. You knew you weren't happy. You knew there was something more that was calling you. You prepared in the ways that you said. Then when how'd you get your first client?
You would think it would be easy, and I would just call my parents and be like, Mom, Dad, I know you'll support me. But no, they didn't come on first. It was, where I was lucky to where I got a great training program, but it was really just going out and prospecting. I know we're going to get into that. It was talking to as many people as I could and telling them what I do. And believe it or not, my first clients were people that didn't even know me.
Wow.
Because those that did questioned why am I changing? So they didn't know my story and understanding. So they're like, Bryan, you've been a pharmacist and a director for 15 years. What, that's not you. I've got a guy or I've got a girl,
So people found you word of mouth through friends? Like, how did you meet these people?
Mine became my word of mouth of going to everything I could and talking to every single person that I could possibly talk to, and seeing, letting them know what I do and how I can help them. It's almost like, we use the analogy of planting a garden. You just go out this year and you throw a bunch of seeds out there and just you got nothing to show for it, but I just kept planting seeds and planting seeds and planting seeds. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, they're like, hey, Bryan, you remember when we talked that, something did come up, and I remember that you talked to me about that. So, there wasn't any movement at first, but I was just putting it in people's ear and saying, here's what I do. If something ever comes up, if you change your job, I'd love to help you out with what to do. If you do this, yeah.
So what kind of advice do you think you would give to somebody who's starting a new business during the pandemic and we need to go out and talk to people and bring people in?
Recreate the way you network.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely a need out there. I think more than ever, people need contact with individuals, and they want to have conversations because it's great that technology nowadays, you can have robo this and whatever that, but sometimes it's good to just say, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? Here's how I can help you. Let's talk through some things. But, I've treated LinkedIn as my new face-to-face right now. With, we'll talk through that a little bit. That became my new, okay, I'm directly reaching out to somebody that I know something about them, and I'm directly looking for a response with them. Looking for different networking events. So Zoom's been big with different networking events, and just seeing how I can get involved with that kind of stuff as well.
So what, the fact is, I mean, I've done cold calling, at a software company, and I know what it's like, and I know how debilitating that can be. And you being an introvert, at least claiming to be an introvert, we'll let the jury's still out on that one, but we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, presumption of innocence on it. What sustained you through just going through and meeting? Because this is intimidating to almost everyone.
That was the biggest thing. The nose hurt. You feel like you are worthless to a degree at some points, and and especially at the beginning, that because everybody's telling you no, right? Everybody's like, whatever, they kind of push you off. That was tough until I sat down with another advisor and they said, Bryan, what you're doing, they don't realize it, but what you're doing is just trying to help them. And they're not saying it is their loss for saying no to you. It's not your loss for that no that you got. So it kind of flipped my perspective on it of, you know what, too bad. You just missed out on something great in your life that I could help you with, because I know internally I'm doing it for the right reasons. And my only goal was to help those that I work with. So they missed out. But that's not to say there wasn't some days of like, can't do anything right kind of thing. But it always seemed like when you felt that way, some higher power would throw something in front of you to really give you that high. You're like, wow, this is awesome. This is great. I have this story or this event happen with somebody that I talked to. So, but yeah, that's where go back to that support system of when you're going through those lows, you just want somebody around that's going to be like, you got this. Like, keep putting in the work, keep doing whatever. You know it's going to work if you just keep doing it.
But it's so beautiful there, because I thought about, again, we had this company for 7 years. It took before we finally sold it, and on a phone selling software. And my partner at the time would come out and say, hey, the energy below says, you got to call these people like you got the cure for cancer. They got cancer and you got the cure. And that's great, except you have to believe it. And I think what's so critical is, it's this hard work, but the fact is you actually knew that you wanted to help people.
Yep.
And that you knew you could help people.
And I think that goes for any business owner. You started your business because you believe in what you do. You're not running a get rich quick scheme. You are believing in what you do as your, whatever it is, whether it's financial advising, opening a restaurant, you believe you have the best food around and you want everyone to come enjoy your food and you want to be compensated for that or whatever it is. I think Rennie, you're in the painting world, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping to start an art studio in my backyard and
but you truly
teach
believe
classes and
we've
sell my
talked about
painting.
that. Yeah, exactly. That you truly believe that there's a cathartic and a great thing that anybody can be an artist, and you believe that, and you're not really selling something to somebody. You're giving them a gift, and they're compensating you for that gift that they're giving you. But that's where I had to flip it. So when they said no to me, I'm like, well, you just missed out on this great opportunity, or whatever. And yeah.
You're just the person I want to give my money to. I mean, that helps too. Actually, I think, oh, Bryan, take all my money.
Unfortunately, none of the checks get written out to me. So.
Well, yeah, okay. I should rephrase that. So let's talk about. I mean, this is just the arc of your story of knowing you wanted to do something else, preparing for it, being prepared to work hard, kind of forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, but at the same time having the energy or the push or the affirmation comes from knowing you actually are doing what you want to do and you're helping people doing it. So let's talk about some of the tricks of the trade, because I know that this is part arts, part science. So let's talk about the science.
Yeah. So practically speaking, that, we want to focus on prospecting, and I'll take it back to think of what prospecting was or is in the general sense of prospecting was a bunch of people moving across the entire United States to find gold. And if you think about that journey, it probably was miserable and horrible, and they wanted to quit every day because they didn't have food or they didn't have water or, whatever. But their eye was on the prize, right, of the gold but it wasn't an easy process. And I think that's where people prospecting should be easy. No, it's the hardest thing of the game. But if you do it right, you're going to get all that gold at the end. It just takes a while to get there. So usually I'll start off with networking. So you talked about where do I network or how do I network? Different for everybody, but and we probably talked about this at Commonwealth before. Who's your client? Like, who is your client? If you are looking for people that do arts or beginner artists, Meetup, I'm sure, has some great beginner art groups that are out there that I would say you would join every one of them and be part of every event they have and get to know them and become friends with them because they probably hang out with people that do art. And so then you start to build your sphere, and it's not that you sell what you do, but you become friends with this network because they have a common interest as you, or commonality. And then they tell people about you because you're a great person and you're awesome. And by the way, you also do this that they could potentially help them with. Where do they hang out? Again, this is a little bit different in the COVID area, but joining groups of where they hang out. I could probably say in my world, a lot of people that golf or play tennis have disposable income because that is an expensive thing. And if I'm looking for people that have higher incomes, that might be a place that I'd want to either learn how to play golf or tennis, which I'm horrible at, both. But those would be areas of like, where do I want to hang out? So for you or whoever, where are the right people that I need to be around that are going to actually want my service? And you're going to get a lot more yeses that way versus just a random, kind of like David said, cold calling. That's the toughest because it's random. But if you can surround yourself with similar interests and similar paths, you're going to get a lot more yeses. Same with hobbies, that kind of goes into like the golfing stuff, just getting yourself in circles of things you like doing that they like doing, that you become friends. All of my clients are my family. They are my friends. I know about their dogs. I know about their families. I know about what they like to do on the weekends. Next week, I'm going BB gun shooting with one of my clients in his backyard of a course he built. Not because it has anything to do with the financial advising that I do for him, because we just have a commonality of hang out and do something fun and whatever. But guess what he's going to tell his friends when somebody talks about a financial advisor? I got a financial advisor that comes to my house, hangs out with me, and plays whatever with me or whatever. So those are kind of the ways that I really expanded my networking sphere without really selling myself. I'm not going around saying, here's my business card, I'm a financial advisor, I can earn you blah, blah, blah percent. No, that's not what I do. What I do is say, I'm a great person. You like hanging out with me. You can trust me. You believe in me. And it just so happens that I'm really good at finance. So it's a win for everybody in that sense.
So one of the things that I said, I know people that are great salesmen and good-hearted, and I know great salesmen with good hearts, and I know good-hearted people that are great salesmen. And so it's almost like there's a distinction between, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can be good at sales and still care about people. That the fact that you're using techniques, the fact that you're running numbers, the fact that yes, you hoping to become a client doesn't necessarily alter the sincerity of you actually wanting to connect with them.
I don't sell myself. You'll never see me come and say, hi, Bryan Piccirillo, a financial advisor. Typically, a lot of people don't even know what I do until they've known me for a few months, just because that's not what I want to make the crux of my relationship with somebody. I want to go deeper than that first and then say, hey, superficially, I can help you with X, Y, and Z. So there's just so many different angles you could approach with it. Some people are direct and that's fine, but that's just never been my approach of, I'm a person, and we could all, we'll get into LinkedIn. How many hundreds of messages do you get a day that are literally like canned text of like, they're just basically sending it out to 3,000 different people and hoping one person says, yeah, sure, I'd be interested in a meeting or whatever. That's not my style. My style is, hey, we went to the same college, or hey, I saw that you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and I would love to chat with you. Or I saw that you used to work in pharmacy and so did I. I would love to hear why you switched out of it. Those are the conversations, and that's how I'm reaching out to people on LinkedIn for my networks. Not, hi, have you been impacted by COVID and your finances are in blah, blah, blah? Let me help you out with that. No, that's not my way of how I'm approaching LinkedIn. And guess what? I'm getting way more responses to, oh, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, I would love to have a Zoom meeting with you, or I would love to have coffee, versus sending out 3,000 different of the same message to everybody.
Wow. So let's talk. I can go in a couple of directions here, because I think there is something of just finding where's the connection, where's the Venn diagram, where's the overlap in terms of that, and that it can be the smallest sliver, but if there's something there that makes them feel special, makes them feel that you have something, you're not just that person on the outside trying to crack through the membrane. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah,
So-
mine's the commonality. I always look for the commonality of what I have with somebody. If you can find that, you don't really need to sell your product. You're selling yourself, and they're gonna more than likely reach out to you and say, "Hey, I really want you." They're usually offended that you haven't asked them to work with them, because they're like, "What? I thought we were great friends and a great person. Why haven't they asked me yet?"
I think, and it's true. You and I know we've known each other for like, I don't know how many months. You never asked me for my money. I
Nope.
said, I'm going to give it to you, but you never asked me for it. It's great. It's a reverse sell. I mean, you're a genius. So let's talk about some of the specific avenues. You mentioned LinkedIn. Let's talk about some of the vehicles that you're using.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, depending on how fancy or simple you want to be with it. So I have a program where it's called Sales Navigator, where I can search different professions and if they switch jobs and all that. So I've basically really just set up searches that look for commonalities. So I look for anybody that lives in the triangle that went to a high northern university, and it tells me, here's the 50 people that went to high northern. Guess what? My message to them, I friend them and say, hey, saw you went to high northern. You live really right next to me. Let's just talk about college experience and the same teachers that we had or whatever. That's, one. Again, it might be an interest or a hobby you have. It might be a previous job. So Duke employees are probably a good one for me, in that, when I see somebody that was at Duke that left Duke and I left Duke as well, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I saw you left Duke. What was your reason? I left them, I separated from them as well. So again, it's just searching in LinkedIn for the areas you have commonalities. Typically, like I said, school is an easy one. Where you grew up. So maybe look at your hometown of people that live here from your home, or wherever you live, that are from your same area or hometown, your same profession that you were in or used to be in. That's kind of my target. But target those that have something in common with you, and that's how you break the ice. You don't just randomly friend people and they have no idea who you are or why you're friending them.
You said there's a sales navigator that helps you do these kind of searches.
Yeah, there's a ton out there. The only difference really in them is that they just give you a lot more options for searching than the basic LinkedIn search does. So, the basic LinkedIn searches are nice, but you can't get into some of the intricacies of what people would put on LinkedIn, as far as like, it'll alert me if somebody changed their jobs that I'm friends with. So if you went on in there today and updated where you work, I would get a notification that says, hey, Rennie left so-and-so and is now at so-and-so. And it may be, then you might get a message from me say, hey, congrats on the move, or what caused you to move. So it's just some of that stuff that LinkedIn's not going to give you in their basic search.
And I got to tell you, it's the first time I've heard Ohio Northern mentioned in a sentence in probably,
Got to get them out there. We're the only college probably in the United States that has a polar bear as a mascot, even though there are no polar bears anywhere in Ohio. Maybe at the zoo.
So LinkedIn, what else are you using?
Centers of influence are big for me. So when I say that, I mean, who are the people in your business world that are talking to the people you want to talk to? So in my world, my centers of influence are estate attorneys, CPAs, bookkeepers, people like that are working under the finances or businesses or dealing with estates of people that need somebody they can rely on and say, hey, go talk to this person. They'll get your business finances in order, estate in order. So for me, if I know a good 4 or 5 of those, and they're seeing 20 to 30 people a day, and they send me 1 or 2 or 3 of those people a day, that's an amazing day for me for doing really not much other than having the friendship with my centers of influence. So, you're, and I keep picking on Rennie just because we've had conversations about what she does, but Rennie, being in art, it may be, you work with local paint stores of people that are coming in and buying paints, or new setups, or like, Michael's, and saying, hey, when you get people that come in and they're talking about trying to find somebody that they want their kid to learn how to paint, or they want to paint, I'd be happy to go, chat with them and become friends with that person. And then you're not working with that person, but they're sending you all the people they talk to.
Yeah.
So, I work with, some of my businesses. I have a gentleman that does, he supplies food to food trucks. So I told him, go and talk to, this person that usually gets a lot of food trucks together for different events and stuff. And then they're talking to 10, 20, 30 food trucks a day. And they now, if they're friends with you, and a food truck says, hey, who do you know that can supply me with X? Your name's going to probably be at the top of the list.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, we call them aggregator. Another way to look at them is aggregators. Who is it that's already aggregated the people you're looking for, and you can do a one-to-many
Yeah.
with?
It's a lot easier to really get close with that one person. And typically, I mean, everybody can speak for it. When you need somebody for something, you typically ask the people you trust first. You don't, Google's a great resource or whatever, but I could tell you, if I'm looking for a lawyer, I'm going to reach out to the people in that world and say, hey, who do you know that's good at this?
Mhm.
And I'm not even going to second guess what they tell me. If I trust them, then they have given me a good source. So when those people call you or me or whoever, you're not selling to them either. They're already ready to open the account. They're already ready to buy whatever it is, because you are already given the seal of approval from somebody that they know and trust.
Okay, we got LinkedIn, we got aggregators. You got a third?
Other thing I use is zoning. And I know we hit on this a little bit earlier, David. This is something I actually learned from another advisor that I really love. So I put everybody that I meet and that I feel is a potential, we could potentially have a relationship with me, into a zone. So you can have as many or as little as you want. And that allows me to never lose touch with somebody. So I have 5 zones. And if, let's say, Stacy and I met today, she might go in zone 1. So this next week, I'll call everybody that I put in zone 2. And then the week after that, I'll call everybody in zone 3. And then I'll call everybody in my zone 4 the week after that. And then I'm back to zone 1. And guess whose name is going to pop up with the zone 1 list? Rennie or Stacy. And I'm going to then, just whatever, get an update of what's going on, or have some kind of thing that I want to talk to her about. But that allows me to not forget about people. And I think this is, especially when you're just starting out and meeting a lot of new people, of you talk to somebody once, and then a year and a half later, you're like, oh, wow, I haven't talked to that person in forever. They could have really been great for your business. So this just keeps me on the cusp of always circling back to everybody that I've talked to that is in those spheres. And I just work through them. People get added every day. So if I met somebody today, they'll get added to zone 4. So then next time I get to my zone 4 people, that person's going to pop back up again. Because typically, again, in my line of work, it's different for everybody. It takes typically like 5 or 6 contacts and conversations with somebody before they even start to bring a wall down to where they even want to talk about, okay, how can you help me financially or in a business setting? So, I would love for it to be on the first every time, but I've learned that it takes a good, 5 or 6 encounters just to chip away at the wall.
I've noticed that too, and from a little different angle, is that because I, like you, I just have a large network that I've accumulated, and I don't want the first time I reach out to those anybody to be because I want something. So there's just a way of keeping the relationship alive, finding these touch points, finding these contact points. And again, part of it is because I care, and part of it because I want to, I might want something from them. And I think I would get back to that. There's nothing wrong with having a seemingly selfish motive in this thing, because that's who we are mixed, and we have a business, and you care. But just that idea of keeping contact, keeping relationships going, and
It's just having a system of constant contact and not losing people in the cracks. And it's so easy to do. And to your point, David, is I look at all my relationships as symbiotic. I love that word coming from healthcare. Of yes, there is something that we are both going to get from each other, but it is mutually beneficial. It's not one taking advantage of the other, through a friendship or anything like that. It is completely symbiotic in that, yes, if you invest with me, I'm getting paid by you essentially, but I'm also working X hours a week to make sure we maximize what you're doing with your money and you don't have to worry about it. So, and that's not fault to anybody. That's just what you would do. I do it for my family of, hey, how can I help you? How can I serve you?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I just had an experience where someone was starting a business and and they wrote me and it was really complicated. I'm trying to, okay, we got the Commonwealth and I got this and they got this and I got that. And finally I just said, what can I do to help you? And I found that is the simplest response almost to anything, is just and I know that's how you're wired. And it's just a beautiful mindset, both for living life and growing a business.
And my biggest, I guess, statement that I'll make, and when you get to that person is, do you see yourself working with me? And what's holding you back? What is that obstacle that's holding you back? And if you don't see yourself working with me, that doesn't end a friendship, that doesn't end anything. It just alerts me to know I don't want to push something and make you uncomfortable or make a relationship uncomfortable for something that's not of interest to you.
So one of the things when I just passed a 6-month coaching school, so now I'm certified as a coach. And one of the things we talked about is just people saying, I can't work with you because I can't afford you. And so what is your response to that? If people say, yeah, I would love to work with you, but right now I just can't afford your services.
Do you want? No, I was going to be
Flippant.
cheeky. I was going to say, well, you should send them to a financial advisor like myself to show them how they could afford you. But no. Yeah, I mean, that's a common objection. I think it tends to be a cop-out for the most part. Any excuse that's like, no, I've got somebody, or I can't afford it, or there's always a way. It's just a matter of sitting down of, why can't you afford it? And there's some really good books on this kind of stuff, but this is really getting to the crux of, are you going to accept that answer? Or are you going to dig into more? Because that to me is a very general answer. It doesn't tell me the story of, why can't you afford it? Well, if you could afford it, would you do it? Well, yeah. Well, then let's figure out a way. Let's sit down and look at ways that you can afford it, because that typically is the knock at the door. Let me get you off my doorstep. I've already got it, or you got it taken care of, or I'm good. All good.
Yeah, it's great you say that, because one of the things we told our sales reps is it's never about money. It's about value. And the idea that people just say it's money, then it really is just the way of getting people to hang up the phone.
And
So I have one more
people may not be able to afford it, but that's not to say you can't establish that relationship. And this is where I get into, is that I have a lot of people that I know I'm not going to have a relationship with in my business sense. They are friends of mine, but I know that they are friends with people that I would love to do business with. So again, it goes back to that networking social sphere of, just because they're not there in a business capacity doesn't mean they still can't be a resource for what you do.
So I have one more question for you, which is that the nice thing, I remember one of the things we tell our sales guys, well, is 90% of your business comes from your customers. So how do you leverage, or whatever the appropriate word is, how do you take full advantage of the opportunities presented by the people that are already in your world?
Yeah, so referrals are great. They just take a while. So it takes a while to get to that point. So it took me about 5 years, 3 or 4 or 5 years to really get to a point where the people I work with are really supplying my business versus me going out and looking for it. But it's really being bold about it too. I think this is another one where people kind of beat around the bush and are afraid to talk about it. But if you are doing something great for somebody, don't you think that they want to share that with somebody, and they know somebody that might help? And typically the reason that we'll use clients, because that's what I use in my terminology, your clients don't want to give you their friend's information or their family member because they think you're going to harass them.
Mm.
They think it's going to be like, I'm going to give them to this and they're going to call them and they're just going to want to sell them something. And we get back to that selling thing. So I'll typically make that upfront now of saying, hey, did you really get value of what we did today? And my hope is the answer is yes, which it always is. Yeah, it was great. Who else do you know that could benefit from something like this? Oh, my buddy Pete. Pete, great. Do you mind if I just call Pete and let him know that, I've got this going on? I'll give him one call. If he's not interested, he'll never hear from me again. But if you think he would really benefit from you and you got value of it, he would too. Yeah, sure, no problem. So that's typically how I would approach the referral process of just asking everybody that. It's a non-threatening way, but you have to ask your clients because typically they want to, they just don't know they're supposed to, I guess, and it's very general, like, who do you know, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of different phrases you could use to get that point across, but it's typically asking them, or I'll even, it goes back to being a good listener when you're talking to somebody. This is when I am working with clients and they say, hey, I'm going golfing with my buddy John this weekend. I ask about John. Who's John? John's a so-and-so. John's a whatever. John sounds like a great guy. I'd love to meet him. Can I go hang out with you guys one day? And whatever. Yeah, sure. And then now all of a sudden they don't realize they've given you a referral in that sense because they've actually invited you to join along with somebody that they're friends with. And guess what's going to happen if you're all together? Yeah, Brian's my financial guy. He handles my blah, blah, blah. And you've already got your intro, referral, everything right there. And you really didn't do much other than say, hey, can I tag along? Or who is this person you just mentioned? But that requires listening. And a lot of times I think we get into the thing of we want to spout off what we do for our business and we're not hearing what the other person's saying and missing some key opportunities in those conversations to actually grow your business along with it.
That's great. Because people want to share. People love to, you see a great movie or hear a great song. I can't wait to tell the next person about it. And just taking advantage of the fact that, or just recognizing that. And I think with you,
I bet you everybody watching this right now I can say, where's your favorite Chinese place to eat?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a place that they think is their best and they have no problem spouting off what it is. They're getting no kickbacks from the company. They just love the whatever. Why isn't your business the exact same as that? Who's the best person to go to teach me how to, paint or whatever? Rennie, right?
I'd love to have you over if you want to learn to paint, Brian.
Yeah. I got stick figures down, so we're good there.
Hey, I believe everybody has like artistic, creative side to them that they just have never explored.
But I think, but that's the point of, you could see the passion in you. It's just getting other people to say like, I'm not selling this to you. I'm providing this to you. I'm giving this to you.
Yeah. Well, Brian, I got to say that you're just such a great study and like I say, the art and science of it, like the technology of it and the magic of it is because the tricks of the trade, but you care. And that's what it is. That you put those two together, you get best practices and you get also the fact that you're passionate about it.
Yeah. And I know we hit on a bunch of stuff, but if anybody ever wants like the books to read and just things of like starting a business and just I'm big in psychology and, if you can't tell, of how people think and how people react. So a lot of the things that a lot of sales is centered around how do people behave and react.
Yeah.
And there's some great resources out there that kind of teach you how to use your voice and what questions to ask and how to ask questions especially when starting a business that are critical and, understanding what people are really asking for when they're talking with you.
So how do people find you if they want to throw money at you or if they just want to get the benefit of your wisdom so people will throw money at them?
Well, there's always the great Commonwealth meetings every Thursday.
Well, you should give us something about that, Brian.
There's this group of great like-minded individuals that meets every Thursday. That is, always something valuable comes out of it, emotionally, spiritually, financially, whatever you're looking for, it's probably there somewhere. Other than that, I'm everywhere. Email me. I'll just type in my name, Bryan Piccirillo, Edward Jones. You'll find me. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever else is out there.
How do you spell that Piccirillo name? Because that's a stopper.
I know. I'm going to change it to Smith. I really want to.
That's how you say.
Yeah. Piccirillo, Piccirillo, not the doctor one. There's a doctor somewhere in Iowa. That's not me.
Okay, Bryan Piccirillo. So Bryan, it's great. We look forward, we'll have you tomorrow in the Commonwealth meeting. We're going to break out into groups and talk specifically about some of these prospecting stuff and getting people moving in that way. If I was up to me, I'd have you on every other week, but I think people might get tired of it after a while.
Oh yeah, there's only so much of my face you can handle per week.
I just want to see how many of those beautiful shirts you got too. I just really,
Hey, I'll empty the closet for you.
okay, well, I want to come over to see that. All right. Well, anyway, thanks so much, Bryan. Again, feel free to reach out to Bryan. Just even if you just want the resources, Bryan just loves to share that. And if you just want to say, hey, give me a cheat sheet of stuff I can do, reach out to Bryan. You can reach out to us and we'll get a hold of Bryan.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to Rennie's thing too. Everybody says I can't afford a financial advisor or it's not right for me. Everything I do from the education consultation is completely free. So if you just have a question or need help, please reach out. I will always take the time to answer any questions, whether it's where's the best place to get an auto loan to, I don't know how to do a budget.
And I would just add too, once again, pitching the Commonwealth group, and there's information on the Facebook site about that, is that we find people like Bryan. I mean, where the hell do you find people like Bryan? We got a whole group of them. So
Yeah.
Bryan, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Rennie, Stacy, again, thank you as well. And
Thanks, Bryan.
be back next
Thank
week.
you. Thanks for having me.
So we'll end the recording here.